If you're in life sciences, you already know that validation is absolutely non-negotiable. But what happens when the validation process itself is what's slowing you down? So today, we're going to dive into how you can automate and scale your validation efforts without ever compromising on the critical compliance that underpins, well, everything you do.
So let's just kick things off with a question that probably feels a little too familiar. Do you ever find your release cycles just slowing to a crawl, completely buried under a mountain of paperwork? If that sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone.
And that feeling, right? That feeling of being buried, that gets us right to the heart of what we call the modern validation challenge. The old-school, document-heavy way of doing things just wasn't built for the speed and complexity of the world we live in today.
I mean, this slide just nails the vicious cycle of manual validation, doesn't it? Think about it. You've got your absolute best people, your experts, bogged down with these super repetitive tasks. And what happens then? Well, evidence capture gets inconsistent. It's like one person captures a screenshot as a PDF, another uses a Word doc with comments, and before you know it, your audit trail is just a total mess. And the end result? Your release cycles grind to a halt, totally bottlenecked by this huge administrative backlog.
So, this is where we really have to shift our thinking. Automation in a regulated space isn't about replacing your experts. No way. It's all about empowering them, freeing them up from that tedious work, standardizing how evidence is captured so it's always consistent, and ultimately making your entire process way more traceable.
Okay, so before we get any further, we have to clear something up because this is a super common point of confusion. Lots of people hear the word automation and think of just one thing. But when we're talking about validation, we need to be really precise. We're talking about the difference between automated testing and validation automation. And believe me, they are two very different animals.
And this lays out the difference perfectly. Over on the left, you've got automated testing. You can think of this as basically a robotic arm. It's focused purely on the execution, just running test cases. But on the right, validation automation, wow, that's the whole ecosystem. It manages the entire lifecycle, connecting everything from requirements to risks to tests, all the way through to the final compliant approvals.
So let's put a real definition on it. Validation automation is when that automation is embedded inside a controlled digital lifecycle. And the magic word here, the most important word, is connected. Think about that for a second. Your requirements, your risks, your approvals, all linked together in a single chain of evidence that's reviewable at any time. Now that is a game changer.
All right, so we're all on the same page. Now for the big question, where does this automation stuff actually give you the biggest bang for your buck? Let's dig into its highest value uses.
Well, the sweet spot, it's always in those tasks that are super repeatable, totally rules-based, and frankly, just begging for human error. This is where you get the most incredible return. We're talking about stuff like regression testing after an update, methodically checking all the user permissions, verifying data integrity, and of course testing those core workflows that your team has to run day in and day out.
Now, this next point might just be the single most important takeaway from our whole discussion. Look, everyone gets excited about speed, right? But speed isn't the real prize here. In a regulated environment, the thing that truly matters is traceability.
And this quote from the source material, man, it just says it all perfectly. Speed is flashy, sure, but traceability, that's what holds up under an audit. It's what creates real, lasting compliance value.
And that right there, that is the core shift in thinking. The whole point of this isn't just to make your timeline faster. The real power of this approach comes from gaining complete, total control and visibility over your entire validation process. Yeah, speed is a nice side effect, but control is the real objective.
So what does that control actually look like? Well, it looks exactly like this, an unbroken digital chain of traceability. Every single link matters. Just imagine, an auditor walks in and asks, hey, why was this system released? With this chain, you can trace that decision all the way back through the approvals, to the test results, to any deviations that were managed, and right back to the original requirements. That unbreakable connection, that's the gold standard. That is being audit-ready 24/7.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, right? But the million-dollar question is, how do you actually do it? So let's shift from the why to the how and walk through a clear path for making this a reality.
But hold on, before we jump into the steps, we've got to lay down rule number 1. You have to think of this as a strategy and governance project first and a software project second.
Your plan matters way more than the tool you buy.
And here's that plan, laid out as a simple 5-step framework. Just look at the flow. First, you start with a risk-based approach, so you know what to prioritize. Then, you build in that traceability we talked about from day one. Next, you gotta define your evidence standards up front, not as an afterthought. Crucially, you keep human controls for all reviews and approvals. And finally, you plan for maintenance, because we all know your systems are gonna change.
Now this is so important. Automation does not, and I repeat, does not get rid of the need for human expertise and professional judgment. Not at all. Actually, it does the opposite. It makes the human-led stuff even more critical. Things like setting the strategy, assessing risk to the business or to patients, analyzing deviations, and making that final approval call, these are all things that demand human expertise. The way to think about it is, automation handles the what, your experts handle the why and the so what.
All right, let's wrap this up by looking ahead. Where is all this going? What's the future of validation really look like?
And the future is not about replacing people with robots. It's about giving your best people better systems, smarter tools, so they can do their jobs at a scale we've never even seen before.
So, the whole debate, manual versus automated, that's the wrong conversation to be having. The real path forward is building a single control digital validation system where automation is just one powerful piece of that bigger, smarter puzzle.
And that brings us to the final, most important takeaway of this whole explainer. If you remember just one thing, make it this. The goal isn't just to make testing faster. It's to make your entire validation process stronger.
So, we'll leave you with this one question to take back to your team. Take a hard look at your processes, your tools, your whole strategy. Is your approach to validation truly ready for the future? Thanks for sticking with us through this explainer.